Hey, Hammy here, coming to you with the second part of section 3.3, where we will finish up the concept of cell transport, moving things in and out of the cell. In this video, we will focus on active transport using energy. Okay, just like it sounds, active means that it uses energy. Okay, remember passive transport, osmosis, diffusion, facilitated transport didn't take any energy, and they moved from where things were really concentrated and they would spread out to where there wasn't very much. Active transport is going to need energy because it's moving things from a low concentration to a high concentration. Okay, so if you look down here at this picture here, notice there's lots of green dots inside the cell here. So we would say our high concentration is inside the cell. Okay, out here would be our low concentration. Look, we're moving from where there's just a couple of them, low concentration, to where there's already a bunch. Okay, so our cell is trying to get more of something it needs, like minerals in a plant root. Okay, and it's trying to get them out of the soil. So they're moving up the concentration gradient. This is going to take energy. And usually you have these little transport proteins in the cell membrane here, okay? And they're going to use energy from ATP in order to do this. One of the main examples of active transport that many books and tests talk about are sodium-potassium pump. Okay, it's a pump because it's using energy, right? And it's going to move ions against a concentration gradient. Well, what ions? Sodium and potassium. And if you look at the diagram down here, okay, here you see the plasma membrane right here, okay, and then here is a transport protein right here, or the little pump, okay. It's going to grab the little hexagons are sodium ions. It's going to grab 1, 2, 3 sodium ions, and it's going to, if you go to the next step here, look, it expels it outside of the cell. So three positive 1 sodiums are going to go out, okay? And then notice there's a little zap of ATP, of energy from ATP, okay? In this next step, it's going to grab 2 potassium, which are also +1, okay? And expel them to the inside of the cell. Okay, so we've used energy from ATP, okay, and we've put 3 pluses out and only 2 pluses back in. So what's that going to create? Yeah, it's going to create a +1 charge outside here. Okay, outside the membrane is going to become more positive. Okay, this happens in our nerve cells. Okay, that's how they recharge until they're ready to fire again. When they fire, they get depolarized. Okay, and the charges balance out, and then we need energy to pump those ions back up and charge the nerves back up the next time it needs to fire. Okay, so the sodium-potassium pump, pumping ions in and out of the cell membrane, or through the cell membrane in and out of the cell, is one example of active transport. Another, I guess, type of active transport, but we sort of put it in its own category, is bulk transport. So here we're taking very big things, okay? And we're moving them either in or out of the cell. Doesn't really matter on concentration. It's just that it takes energy because they're so big. Okay, we're talking like big proteins, kind of the final structure protein when they're coming from the Golgi apparatus and they need to be released, taking in or releasing lipids, polysaccharides like starches. Okay, so there's 2 main types, taking in and releasing. Taking in is called endocytosis. Endo, in, cytosis, cell. And there are 3 types, okay, lots of 3s today, 3 types of endocytosis. Okay, the first one is phagocytosis. Phagocytosis is taking in, we often call this cell eating, and it's going to take in large solid particles. Okay, so here's like when one cell, like a amoeba, will engulf maybe a little bacterium here, and it's going to ingest that as food. Now notice that the cell membrane kind of pinches in, okay, and surrounds that little bacteria and makes a little food vacuole. Okay, so phagocytosis is cell eating really big solid particles. Pinocytosis, pinocytosis is often called cell drinking, where it will take in let's say this is some kind of like lipid droplet or something like that, often taking in liquids, okay, into the cell. Notice it gets put into a vesicle. The third type of endocytosis, pinocytosis would be number 2, is receptor-mediated. Okay, in other words, there are little receptors on the surface of the cell membrane here. These little cup-shaped things here. This is how we often will take in LDL cholesterol. Okay, cholesterol is taken in this what we call coated pit. So the cholesterol molecules attach. Okay, they attach to these little receptors. Okay, once they are attached, it causes the membrane to pinch in, and you get this little coated protein or coated vesicle with our cholesterol in here. Okay, so 3 types of taking in or bulk where the membrane will actually pinch in. They're not going through the phospholipids. The membrane is actually pinching in and forming a little vesicle. The last one, exocytosis, just like it sounds. Exo means giving off or out of the cell. Okay, so stuff is leaving the cell. So the vesicle, oftentimes it's a protein made on the rough endoplasmic reticulum, is put into a vesicle, taken to the Golgi apparatus. The Golgi apparatus modifies it, and let's say it's like a digestive enzyme. It then needs to get secreted into the lumen, or the empty space of your stomach or your small intestine, to break down the food. Okay, so it needs to get to the outside of the cell. That vesicle moves out towards the membrane. Okay, and remember, this is a phospholipid bilayer around this vesicle. It will join up here with the cell membrane. Okay, so it'll join up with the cell membrane, and then it'll kind of pinch open. Okay, so the vesicle membrane has now just become part of the plasma or cell membrane, and woo, there goes our digestive enzymes, okay, for digestion of our food. Okay, stuff is then released to the outside of the cell. Okay, understand cell transport. Oops, too many L's. You didn't see that. Cell transport plays a key role in, what is that word again? Homeostasis, internal balance. It is very important for the functions. Okay, we talk about cells, different types of cells making up different kinds of tissues, making up different kinds of organs. Okay, the complexity we find in living things, part of their maintaining that function, maintaining that homeostasis, is being able to move things in and out of the cell. Okay, getting things in that we need and releasing things that the body needs, or getting rid of waste. Okay, these constant adjustments are very necessary in order to keep that cell alive.